visual communication, visual thinking is that one tool that can really help us all to understand each other better, therefore connect with each other better. And we all have that in ourselves. I find that the world has kind of created a bit of a story where you need to be a bit of an artist or a photographer or a painter to be creative and to think visually. And that's not true. I think we all think visually, we just don't utilize it enough, because unless you're into being visual and drawing and doodling, or you've got kids, we just completely stop using it as adults. For some reason, the world decided that it's childish, it's too playful, it's gimmicky, and all the data and neuroscience and psychological books and all of that say that it's otherwise.
This week, Natalia Talkowska shares her journey from Poland to London's startup ecosystem and how her insatiable curiosity led her to build Natalka Design, a visual communication agency that enables leaders to drive business growth, communicate with more confidence, and engage their audiences. Natalia shares her mission of connecting people and making them feel seen and understood. She recounts the pivotal encounter with her mentor who fundamentally shaped her career and personal growth, and explains her approach to visual thinking as a strategic tool for distilling complex challenges and empowering decision-making within businesses. Throughout the conversation, she emphasizes the importance of human connection, creativity, and storytelling in an increasingly digital world. This episode is a must-listen for anyone interested in innovative problem-solving, personal development, and the evolving role of AI in creativity. Now, over to Natalia. Natalia.
Hi.
Welcome to the Impossible Network.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great to be sitting in this unusual location here at Austin Public Library.
I know, I feel like you're the loco, and it's one of those gems that I needed to know about, so I'm really excited. I love a library.
It's excellent, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's get going because you are on a bit of a time crunch. Let's jump right into the big question. Who are you as a human being?
Who am I? I feel like I'm this curious creature that my mission in this world is to bring people together, help them to be seen, and just to feel understood and connect all of us. That's why I'm here.
Okay.
And that's who I am.
A real connector of people.
I think so.
I'm going to come on and ask you why you are the person you are, but what is it that makes you driven to do that?
It always comes back to the same answer for me, because I know what it feels like to not be seen, and it sucks. And I feel like for me and anyone that I speak to, it's really important that we feel like part of something. We feel not alone. We feel like we matter. We feel like someone, at least one person, cares how we feel, how we are. And I think with all of that, we thrive more. We are more ready to get up in the morning and do something good and do something, create something, be something.
Okay. Well, that does lead to the second question. That drive you have inside you to do that, to have value to an agency of others, as Scott Galloway says. What is it that made you the person you are, or who made you the person you are?
I think, Mark, is probably a few things, right? It's never one thing, because we're a mixture of experiences and people we met and media and community and the country we're from and the family we grew up with and the people we surround ourselves with. But to keep it very focused, I guess, on the business kind of professional maybe part of my life and how I've been fueled by this belief and this passion is definitely someone. And I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be running my business for 14 years. I wouldn't be touching people's lives and hiring people and impacting more people if it wasn't for random moment of luck, right timing, tweet to a person 14 years ago now, probably, yeah, that I said hi to on the internet back in the days on Twitter. And I said, hi, I would love to meet you for a coffee, as we all do, because I'm curious. And he said yes. And it was one of those power hours in your life when you're like,
wow,
whoa, something's happening to me, but I don't know what.
Okay, so tell more. What was it that drove you to contact this person? Who was this person? And that's a very courageous thing to do. A lot of people would often have ideas, hey, I'd love to connect with this person, but to go out there, put yourself out there, take that risk is pretty bold.
I guess so. I've been always curious to connect with people and mind that I came to London just to study and I was supposed to go home. but something kept me there. And
Came from where?
from Poland.
Poland, right.
Never traveled before in terms of flights or anything like that, much. So London was this first exciting excursion that was supposed to finish after a year. I was very happy to go back home after, but something kept me curious. First thing I was like, what is networking? What are all these people meeting up for? What is Gumtree? What is Soho? What is going on? What is that event? Who is this person? So just constantly fueled by this endless curiosity and creativity, I guess. And quickly it became quite natural for me to just say hi. And I did. And his name was Darren Robson. And I say was because he's no longer here, which is very sad. But he was a mutual friend, a businessman, person that still the charity continues building up young entrepreneurs and coaching people. And I thought, what an interesting person to say hi to. And clearly I needed some guidance, some moment of help, because when I was studying, I started working as a special needs teacher. That was lovely, but I knew that wasn't my path. And then I went into startup because everyone does, like I can do startup, right? And I was underpaid, endless hours, didn't feel passionate about it. Crazy boss, one of those. And in that moment, that's when I said hi, and he said yes. And I freaked out because he said yes to seeing me in Earl's Court all the way from Greenwich at 7 a.m. in a dodgy cafe. I had like little money, so hopefully I got him a tea at least. And I just had to put some sort of, my work together because I was always drawing, I was always creating. I always had some random projects happening, but there was no cohesion, no intention, no kind of path. And we met 7 a.m. He showed up, and it's one of those power hours where the context kind of that meeting was he listened to all my blurt out about how passionate I am about creating and visualizing stories, and I can turn complex into simple very quickly, very easily. But there was no, what can I do with this? And he said, you clearly have talent, like you're just wasting your time. Leave this job, we're gonna hack you, we're gonna help you. I don't know how, this is my number, just like, let's figure this out. What is going on here? That was like, I'm really putting it down into simple little story. It was more than that, but obviously for the context. And my first reaction was like, whoa, but also I was always taught to be quite pragmatic and, level-headed. So I was like, well, great that you say that, but I don't really have any savings. I don't have anyone that can help me to, kind of live in London or secure myself. So I can't really leave a job. It's not a movie. And a lot of people I find like struggle with that kind of moment of that movie. Like, I'm going to leave everything and just start something. So I was quite worried to do that. And long story short, he went, well, okay, can you give me a sense of how much for then you need per month around to stay safe, pay your bills, grab your coffee, go anywhere you need to go, whatever that is, tell me a number. And I was like, okay. And mind, that wasn't one hour, but we were getting there. And what he did was basically without any form, any agreement or anything like that, he connected me with his EA. And he said, right, what we're going to do is for the next 6 months, I'm going to coach you. If you let me, you set up a website, get cards, do whatever you need to do, whatever kids do, name your business, I don't know, whatever you feel like creating. And your job is to get out there, speak to people, ask them how you can help, share about your skills and your special passion and what do you bring to this world, and see what happens.
Wow.
And what I'm going to do is cover your expenses every month. I think it was around 1,200 or something a month back then, and mind that I was spending much less even then. I was sharing with millions of people in London, went through all that. That's a book on its own. And what we did is, let's say he did that first month, I say hi to Tracy and I say, let's say first month I didn't earn anything because I just didn't. I tried my best, but I didn't. And she was like, okay, no worries, 1,200 is coming to you. And then let's say month 3, I earned 200, 300 and they paid 900 back. So we always evened it out for 6 months. And he saw me every week in London Bridge in a workspace that no longer exists. And I learned so much from him
What was his background?
As a person. His background was always an entrepreneur, kind of creative person who is just not fitting any, I think, systems or anything like that. He was a MD of few companies. He started few companies, but he was always a Big Four consultant, transformation coach, that sort of space when I met him. But I think he's one of those people that just always kind of did his own thing and set up a charity as well that I was part of, Mo, that still is going and I still supported, and just left a huge legacy. And why I say unfortunately in a past sentence is because last year he passed away. So that really, really, really changed my life, and I'm still trying to understand it because he was gone suddenly. But until I'm on this planet, he will always be, in my stories.
What an extraordinary story.
Yeah.
Wow, that is incredible.
I owe everything to him in terms of starting, running, being the person that I am. He was the first male positive character in my life, apart from my brother. So it meant so much more than just coaching and mentoring and, that sort of.
So when you go back to the way you described who you are, about giving people, helping them be heard, be seen, is that because that's what he did for you?
Most probably. There's a huge part in that because, you can claim it was just one of those meetings, and let's say I had energy then and I was younger and I did it and he did it, and it was just this perfect moment in time for two people to do something together. But also, it must have been life-changing. I know it was life-changing for me because it was a huge kind of positive, energizing feeling of, wow, I can do this. Someone thinks I can do something like that. What is it that I'm actually doing? Whoa, is that like worth the time and energy? Clearly it is. And so he helped me to believe in myself because he kind of showed me that I'm this person that can do wonderful things in life and help other people and actually use the skills that I have in a professional context, which I never thought would be possible, especially coming from Poland, where you grow up wanting to be Disney animation character designer and you never do, because if you say, I would like to study art, there's just no support in that.
What were your early ambitions?
Well, Mark, there's few things I wanted to be when I was
So
younger.
you ended up being special needs.
Special needs, yeah.
Clearly it wasn't art. Whereas that's where you ended up, did you have art and creativity in your vision, but pragmatically you were taking on a different path?
I was a head of art for special needs. So that was already somewhere, fueling that passion for creating and storytelling and helping others to connect with that. And working with kids in that way was so rewarding and equally so hard because they were so unwell. But it's one of those things where, how they say 10,000 hours, right? So I always think of drawing as it was my escapism. It was my safe place. I grew up in a bit of a chaotic household. So that was my place to go to. And I definitely marked the 10,000 hours and more. And I always call it the longest internship in my life. So that was always there. Then I started my first business at 17. Why not? Selling hand-painted pillows. My mom was my COO. Why not? So that was kind of keeping me curious. Oh, what an interesting thing to build something and people want it, right? And people respond to it. And language was a natural thing that I was progressing with. I loved language. Thank God I can speak to you. And I was studying a lot of interpreting language, which means instantly interpreting what you're saying to another language, which I think helped me massively with the pace of my thinking and work. So all of that combined weirdly became like a cocktail of what could that be in the future.
Just because of time, I would go deeper into that, but we can always come back. So that incredible trajectory, just before we move on to the third big question, how did he feel about your transformation from when he met you as this project, let's say, to where the witness, the trajectory, the transformation you went on? Did he ever talk to you about it? And his sort of sense of your accomplishment, his pride, or?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I noticed that through the wonderful 13 years I got to know this human, and I'm so grateful I knew him for that time. We actually have like almost 2-3 photos. That's it. We have nothing but one podcast that he recorded 2021 with me, like a more, I think, ecstatic version of me, like crazy a bit energy, because I was so excited to speak to him. So there's one podcast out there where we speak about it. But we had a lot of conversations one-to-one where I knew that he's very proud. He was always laughing that he knew this is gonna happen, whatever that this is. Because again, for me, it's like, how did you know? And he's like, well, I always knew that you just have too much passion and energy, and you believed without me. You just needed that little, fire in the belly. And I didn't see that in the past. And I think it's a weird thing because it's been 14 years of my business, and I wake up every day, most of days, let's be honest. Some days are harder, some days are better. We all know how it is to run a business, but there's this constant curiosity, constant belief. I love the fact that I don't know what's going to happen. Like, we're in Austin, I'm speaking to you, and it's all wonderful and random and serendipitous. And that fuels all that I do, everything. So it's just been a constant almost fuel since he started that years ago with me.
Well, third big question. What are you working to achieve now? We've done a lot in those 14 years, so you maybe touch on. But what are you working to do to achieve an impact before you shuffle off this mortal coil? A long way to go, hopefully.
A long way to go, hopefully, but we never know, right? So grateful for every day. I really, last year, losing Darren and lots of loss in my life last year. Lots, very painful. And I think getting older as well. I actually like getting older. I don't know. No one wants to talk about it, but I don't mind because I feel like whatever I do just becomes more meaningful, more intentional. There's a wider story to it. I want to connect more people. I want to bring more people on that journey. I want to do more bigger impact with whatever I do. Just want to feel more people like they are seen, which means on a very practical level, hopefully continue to create projects that are more impactful, that are more wider scale, that connect more people, which could mean hopefully projects that are also connected with the good of this world. So I love projects that are helping other people to thrive and to be seen. And I love projects that are all about sustainability. And I love projects that are all about future and how we all are getting there and how AI and us fit in there and how can we coexist. And so how that shows for the last few years is more partnerships, more community building, more projects that are, as much as my business is very B2B, creating experiences and building communities around, as I call it, fringe around the business, which I love. Like any festival has a good fringe, hopefully. Creating that sort of community, creativity, energy that fuels itself. So for me, it's just amazing to see new people connecting, new people creating new things. I love to be more and more involved in projects that no one would think that I could be involved in as well. And not to just like prove my ego or anything like that, but I always think, well, why not? Mm-hmm. If it is something useful and meaningful and needed.
You describe your business as a strategic storytelling agency. And you describe, and on the website, you say, we help you feel seen, you've mentioned that, by navigating complex challenges through visual thinking and empowering long-term strategic decision-making.
Boom.
So maybe, because I when I was learning a bit about what you've done in the past, I came across your creativity and something you launched some years ago called Doodly Doo. Yeah. And that was a way of bringing people together around expressing themselves through visual storytelling. But what's visual thinking exactly? Okay.
Magic.
Yeah. As if like that. Okay. Dark matter, time warp. We change from outside to inside. Change of clothes as well.
That's technology.
It's crazy.
It's the future.
Wow. Yeah, someone explain that one.
I know.
Yeah, bad coordination with cameras. So where did we get to? I think the question was, what is visual storytelling?
It's the oldest language out there. So as you said as well yourself, this is the first language that we were exposed to as humans from the moment that we started doodling and drawing stories in the caves, telling our stories of our families and how we move from one place to another, and more information about our tribes and the war and the structure of your community. All of those things has been the first language that we know before English, Polish, German, whatever. And visual storytelling, I always think people think of it as I need to have a specific skill to be able to tap into it. I'm not really creative. How many times I heard that word and that sentence, my goodness. Really, it's expressing stories through visual format. And that could be anything from little scribbles and doodles down to beautiful graphic design, AI implementation these days, video, projections, AR, VR, you name it. But at the core of it is how you tell stories that people can see, therefore hopefully engage with, because it is, at the end of the day, number one language that keeps us engaged. Look at all the apps, look at, TikTok and Instagrams of this world. We just can't seem to stop.
What is it that's causing so many companies and individuals to struggle with expressing their stories in a coherent, clear way? What's the barrier to it? Because it sounds like if it is one of the oldest skill sets, as we said yesterday in part one, it is essentially the first general purpose technology. We've used it through all the millennia and generations to pass on knowledge, wisdom, and to help us make meaning in life. So why do we still struggle today?
I think, like I said yesterday, I think that the way we are wired, how we were told to be at school and at work, is the more complicated you sound, the smarter you are. That's what we think. Now the problem is, the more complicated is your message, what happens? Less engagement. People sit there and they think, well, he's smart, but I don't know what he wants from me, or she. So this is the issue that, especially in today's business world, we want to say so much and everything is so important, and I understand that. But we have few seconds these days to really engage and get someone, interested in our story, what we want to say. Don't try to be too smart, just try to be understood. And if you're understood, you have a better chance to have any sort of reaction.
So how did you get started with it? Where did it all begin with your passion for storytelling, your creativity?
Well, we go back when, so I always say, do you want the espresso or wine version? Depending how much time we have. Yeah, exactly. I would think so. But to give you a bit more context, I always think, I've done the whole 10,000 hours by the age of 5, when they claim that when you've done so many hours, you become an expert. Drawing and illustrating and visualizing stories has always been a big part of my life. I grew up in a quite chaotic household, so visualizing and drawing and doodling for hours was my escapism, was my safe place. Yeah. Chaotic because of the family, not the easiest place to grow up in. I'll keep it there. But as much as it was difficult at times to find a moment of peace at home, I found it in drawing. So when I think about it now, I think about it with a lot of gratitude, because it allowed me to almost not think about how I utilize these skills, but to take me more into professional space through a, let's say, luck, right timing, being younger, being super excited to be in London. I took it from what it was a bit of a hobby and random projects, which took me suddenly to Christie's, working with royal family on illustrations for their charity book. I have stories like that as well. But it was all very disjointed and there was no purpose, there was no intention. How can I take this to the next level? How can I help more people? How can I make this into a business context? So again, through a luck, through the right timing, through meeting the right person, that kind of took me on that trajectory. I created a business out of that, and it's been now 14 years.
Wow. As we said, it is that first general purpose technology. As Amy Webb says, a super cycle of technologies where 3 are coming together. Obviously, the impact of AI, the Internet of Things, and biotech. Those three things coming together are going to change the way we live, the way we work, the way we connect as humans. It will change the way we are as humans. What impact do you think that these technologies are going to have on how we tell stories? Because you're doing it in a very organic, physical way. It's not really using technology as such. So how do you think it's going to impact your work? And how do you think it's going to impact storytelling generally going forward?
Ooh, and a bit of a cliffhanger. We do and start using technology in the background and building something. Right. So totally aware of that, totally not married to the fact that we need to do all the execution. What I'm interested in is human creativity and how can it survive all this change, and the change is so fast. We all know that it will only continue to keep us very, I think, always feeling like we can't keep up. It's going to be faster than we can handle. We already, whoever speaks to me about like, oh, Natalia, I have so many books at home. I have so many books. I want to read them. I have never the time. I'm in the same place, probably you're in the same place. You'll never have the time. That's kind of what I started saying to everyone. Just agree with yourself that all these books on your walls, probably you'll read like 10%. So which 10% are you interested in now? And just go with the first one. And people go like, oh no, but all these books, so it's the same with what's happening, I think, now with our creativity, our ability to work, execute versus AI is speeding things up to such a level that I think we haven't seen anything yet. So with that, how can we still hone that human side to it? And I always say there's a utopian and dystopian version, depending how I feel on the day, who's asking me the questions and who wants to have the answers. But if we go, I like to always talk as well about utopian so that we're not all staying in doom and gloom and is the end of humanity as we know it. I always like to have few theories. What if, in the future, being human is actually more attractive, more expensive, more rare, being as in creating as a human than AI? Because AI at some point, as we can see with phones and all the technology, will become seamless. We'll stop thinking about it. We're not going to talk about tools. We're not going to be even thinking about it. There's not going to be phones in our hands. We just don't know yet what it's going to be, but we can see the trajectories that we already don't think about all this stuff that we wear, and literally phone is an extension of our arm. If someone walks past you, how many phones are stolen a day because you just don't even think about that you have a phone in your hand. So with that, I always like to play a little hashtag made by humans theory. What if in the future, just like B Corp label that companies strive for, because it basically puts them in a different category for investment, for interest from people growing in a massive scale, we could have a label, and that can be, of course, hopefully checked by humans. I don't know how, because, we're not heading that way, clearly. That whatever we produce, that kind of we can hone into that ownership of our creative ideas. Because my worry is that AI is wonderful, but it's just a washing machine of what we already done. So what is new? Or will that mean at some point that AI will go, right, well, I'll give you new ideas? Probably yes. But how can we still keep that natural part of ourselves? We are all storytellers. From the moment we're on this planet as these beings that we've seen happening that since caveman times, we are all storytellers. We don't have to be professional at it. When you speak to a friend, that's you being a storyteller. When you share information with your taxi driver where you need to go, that's a story. I need to go here and there, because my daughter is getting married or something. We do this all the time. We just think that it's some magical skill. Of course, if you want to take it to another level with how is the story built, how to build a good story, how to make sure that people sustain their interest, how to make sure that that story has data-driven, neuroscience-driven effects on people, that's another thing. Of course, this is something that you can research, get skills on, learn. But at the core of it, we're all storytellers. So how can we make sure that in this crazy, crazy, fast-paced AI development, where is our place? So that's one of my theories that is a very positive and lovely theory, but are we going that way? Don't know.
At this pivotal time in society, in the world, and the pace of change, things are happening. I know a lot of people are concerned about the future of education, the future of employment. For people maybe starting out that have got great ambitions, and you looking back at the journey you've been on, what advice would you give them today, knowing that storytelling is still going to be pivotal to us as humans in terms of our individually and collectively? But with the impact of AI, things that will change. What would your advice be to someone starting out, and maybe how they should maybe think about charting a path forward?
I've always said the same thing, and it's not just because I experienced it, but because I've seen other people experiencing it, therefore it must be true. Always say the same thing. As humans, we need to connect. So I would say, go out there, connect, talk to people. I know it might sound scary to many people, but there's many different ways you can do that. If you don't want to do it in person, get in touch online. If you don't want to join a call, join a video call. If you don't want, there's many different ways. Go with a friend to an event, help yourself. But what I would say is talk to people about what it is that you're passionate about. Tell your story. I wouldn't be here if I didn't tell one person, hi, I've got a story. And then he can decide in his brain whether he wants to connect with that story or not. And he did. And I'm not saying find your Darren and find that, person that will kind of start your career in a way, but find a Darren, a Tom, a Katie, a John, a Mohammed, whoever who can be part of your story, and they can be we collectively can support each other in this crazy network of what seems to be, although we're technically more connected, it feels like we're quite disconnected. So don't underestimate the power of people around you. And whatever it is that you want to do, start talking about it, sharing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Everyone's got a story. I guess that's why you do this podcast, right? Yeah. Because everyone's got a story.
Where do you envision yourself, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, the world could be a very different place.
Yeah, I can't wait for my digital twin or triplet or whatever, right? I want that digital twin to do all the mundane tasks and admin things that I don't want to do and answer the people that I don't want to answer. Apart from it, let me play and let me connect more dots. But on the serious note, I just really, I think last year, especially what happened in last year and all the loss that I experienced, and growing older and seeing how technology is changing and we are changing, the work is changing. I really, really am passionate about more connections, more partnerships, creating more impact with clients, for clients. That means creating more projects that we can really, really, put our teeth in and just kind of longer term support in that sort of storytelling environment, if I may. But at the core of it, I just want to see us all doing things together. And I think there's more impact when we do that. So I've been on that journey and it feels really good.
Okay. I think it's going to be exciting to watch and follow your own story. So let's jump into some quickfire questions. Who or what inspires you?
Many things, but right now comes to me Disney, Pixar, all these creative guys, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great book from the guy at Pixar. What was his name? The animator. I read it a few years ago. Called
Creativity Inc.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the one. Yeah, Creativity
the book.
Inc.
Yeah.
God, what's the guy's name there? I can picture him, but I just can't think of his name.
I see the cover. That's my problem. I always forget the name. Don't worry.
So yeah, Creativity Inc. One of the great books about creativity. If anyone has to read anything, other than obviously Dave Birss' book on creativity, Creativity Inc. is probably where you should start. Then go on to Dave Birss' books.
The Creative Act is really good as well.
Yeah.
People thought it's a bit overhyped, but I think it's a really good book.
Okay. What principles do you live by?
Be kind.
Simple, to the point. We all have to deal with fears, uncertainty, and doubts at different times in our lives. How do you cope with that?
I call or talk to a person that knows me well, and they can talk me out of it. Because I think we all have it. I have it every week, and it's part of the journey. And the older I get, again, I really like getting older because I understand myself more and more that it's part of the journey.
It's maybe a bit too soon to ask you what you want your legacy to be, but...
My legacy? I just want someone to say, she made me feel seen and understood. And I felt really warm in her presence and happier. As many people as I can touch this way, I'll be happy to leave this earth and create some chaos from, the stars. Few wins here and there.
Yeah, sounds like you're where we started in terms of who are you as a human. You'd be meeting your sort of core purpose as a human on this planet. You've talked about Creativity Inc. as a book. Are there any other books you would recommend?
The E-Myth. I mean, there's so many. I really like, maybe it sounds like cheesy, but Oprah Winfrey's What I Know for Sure. Whenever you feel a bit like, what is this world? Bunch of super short stories. One of them is how she enjoys eating peach. And it's one of the best written texts I think I've seen in a while.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So highly recommend.
Put that in the show notes. What about a show or a film that someone should watch that they might not have encountered?
Well, that's the thing. I'm a bit old school with the movies. I haven't seen anything recently that I went like, wow. And I'm stuck in the world of Inception and Matrix forever. One of my favorite movies.
Good world to be stuck in.
I know.
What about life hack?
Get up in the morning and do something for yourself before doing something for others.
Okay. Doesn't matter what time you get up?
Whatever morning means to you.
All right. We're all about reciprocity and the importance of it. So are you open for us connecting you to other people in the network?
Of course. That's what I live for.
Okay. And then that leads to the final question about who I interview next.
This is the thing. As I said before, I have to think about it because there's so many wonderful people I can think of. Let me have a think, and you can totally put their name in the notes.
I'll do that. Okay. All right. Well, Natalia, thank you very much for your time, for doing a second round for the video.
Yeah.
Because the video did cut out yesterday for some reason in the heat of Austin on the Austin Library roof.
Keeping it real.
So that's why we're in the room here today.
AC. Forever.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.